Ladies and gentlemen, the research I would like to introduce now is called experimental verification of the pedagogical conditions efficacy to build tolerance among future officers of the National Guard of Ukraine. Mainly, I would like to focus on the following issues. Why tolerance? Why tolerance is important for future officers? What is this research hypothesis? What experiment has been conducted? What were the assessment tools used? And the main question is, so what? The word tolerant is interpreted as being able to withstand and endure the adverse effects of any factors, indulgent, lenient towards someone's thoughts, views, beliefs, etc. The Dictionary of Social Sciences gives a more precise definition: tolerance, meaning tolerance to different views, norms of behavior, habits, different from those shared by the subject. Tolerance means openness to any ideology, fearlessness of ideas competition. In psychology, tolerance means complete or partial lack of response to any adverse factor as a result of reduced sensitivity to its influence. The principles of tolerance are stated in the declaration approved by Resolution 5.61 of the UNESCO General Conference in 1995. It is also noted that educating for tolerance, formation of learners' tolerance is mandatory in the educational process. Education for tolerance should be considered as urgent imperative. That is why it is necessary to promote systematic and rational tolerance teaching methods that will address the cultural, social, economic, political, and religious sources of intolerance, major root of violence and exclusion. Education policies and programs should contribute to development of understanding, solidarity, and tolerance among individuals, as well as among ethnic, social, cultural, religious, and linguistic groups and nations. Representatives of military formations and law enforcement agencies perform combat missions in international peacekeeping operations. Surveys of these categories of individuals have identified a potential risk of conflicts between servicemen from various United Nations member states. The main causes of such conflicts are servicemen's lack of knowledge on the ethical norms of behavior and culture of the nations, the representatives of which participate in peacekeeping operations, as well as of the host state on the territory of which the operation itself is being conducted. Gender inequality, which is treated differently in different countries, as well as the insufficient training of the servicemen in cross-cultural communication. Under certain circumstances, potential conflicts between the servicemen can become a threat. This is especially dangerous in performing combat service tasks and could lead to such consequences as failure to perform combat missions, loss of the peacekeeping unit personnel, undermined reputation of the mission and the participating states sending their servicemen to man the peacekeeping units, as well as peacekeeping personnel deportation. A significant contribution to solve such issues is made by the system of the personnel training for military formations and law enforcement agencies of Ukraine, in particular by assigning an important slot within the system to the formation of such a necessary quality for future officers as tolerance. The results of the pedagogical conditions introduction have been checked with the help of a pedagogical experiment as a research method. Based on the analysis of the latest research publications, we have developed a program of the pedagogical experiment. The purpose of the experiment is to verify the efficacy of the pedagogical conditions of building tolerance among the future officers of the National Guard of Ukraine in the process of professional education and training. The participants of the experiment were future officers of the National Guard of Ukraine. The experimental group and the control group learners did not differ significantly concerning the level of knowledge, skills, practical skills, thus ensuring the homogeneity of the group's composition at the beginning of the pedagogical experiment. In compliance with the theoretical provisions, we conducted the research and the experiment in 3 stages: ascertaining, formative, and control. Based on the selected and developed diagnostic methods to assess the formation of tolerance in future officers of the National Guard of Ukraine, their levels have been determined as low, average, and high, sufficient. After identifying the future officers' tolerance level formed in the process of professional education and training, according to the defined tools, the results of the experiment were attained and the calculations were done by the computer program Statistics in Pedagogy. The comparative analysis of the experimental data shows the increase in the number of learners from the experiment group with the higher level of the future officers' tolerance built in the educational process. By the cognitive component, that increase was by 38%, by the effective volitional component by 19%, and by the prognostic active component by 22%. The reliable results give grounds for the conclusion that the differences in the values of tolerance levels among the future officers of the National Guard of Ukraine in the process of professional education and training in the experiment and control groups are not accidental and highlight the effectiveness of the identified pedagogical conditions to build the future officers' tolerance in the National Guard of Ukraine. During the experiment, we noticed that the learners of the mixed groups, both females and males, have higher levels of their tolerance in both control and experiment groups before and after the experiment. Therefore, the pedagogical conditions for the formation of the future officers of the National Guard of Ukraine tolerance should also include, if possible, the formation of mixed training groups of future officers, including both males and females.